The Galaxy Note 7. This phone cost Samsung a lot of money. But did you ever wonder what life would be like if it survived? Let's go. When the Galaxy Note 7 launched, it felt like a tide had turned. People were interested in Samsung more than they ever had been before. It was turning heads of people that had been in the smartphone industry for a long time. But then it all came burning to the ground. Literally. I don't want to rehash old Note stories. We all have them. I got to have it twice. The first time I had it, it was fantastic. Then we got recalled. Then they sent it to us again. And then we lost it again not too soon after. And then it was gone forever. Now this is the Note Fan Edition. Note 7 parts, Note 7 Soul, but with a smaller, safer battery. But I want to revisit what everyone got excited about when the Note 7 launched officially. What everyone was excited to see and what they got excited about in their short time with it. Because it touched just the right nerve for the people that had it with the feature set that it had on offer. Now Samsung skipped the Note 6. They wanted to bring it in line with the Galaxy S7 series from the year that this came out. Obviously that didn't work out for them, but you can see what their intention was. And when they did that, bringing it in line with the S7, they committed to an all-edge screen design. The Note 7 is a dual curved front display and a dual curved back glass. Pretty much symmetrical when you have it held in the hands because you've got the curves on the back, the curves on the front, and the nice mid-frame that sort of connects the two parts together. There was no flat screen option here like there was with the S7. It was just all edge. And it was sleek as hell. When I got the Note Fan Edition, which I ordered from this website called Korean Bro, not sponsored, I just was randomly browsing the internet one night and thought, oh, wonder if I can get a Note 7. And turns out I could. It arrived in an intense amount of bubble wrap. Like, it was a lot. And eventually, once I got to the inside and dug the Note 7 Fan Edition out, I immediately remembered how much I love the design of this phone. I've had a dummy lying around the house for 5 or 6 years now, just for memory's sake, but it's not the same. Whilst it feels like the weight of it, nothing replaces how it actually feels in the hand, the real thing. The curves with the front and the back seamlessly sort of felt nice in the hand. I couldn't believe how light it was. Like, it is an incredibly light phone. And I remember thinking at the time, how have they fit all of this power inside a package so light and sleek? We know. Honestly, for the time, felt otherworldly. And in a way, it still does, because it pretty much does come from another time of smartphones. With the bezels top and bottom, it was pretty much befitting of the time that this did come out. Honestly though, I think if you were to bring this out now as like a budget phone, it wouldn't be out of place, because the curves on the side basically make the side part of the phone bezel-less, and you just have those top and bottom bezels which had function. The notification LED at the top absolutely brings a unique bit of functionality that we've lost now thanks to that war on bezels. We'll talk about the other stuff that's in there in a moment, like the iris scanner. Stick with the design for now. It maintains Samsung's preference for 5.7 inches for their big phone, their Note series, but maintaining that sort of size in this form factor made it feel sleek and felt like it was just this really nice, compact, large phone. Note phones were always notoriously big and bulky, but the Note 7 came in with this design and blew that theory away. Officially, this was also Samsung's first phone with USB-C. I guess unofficially too, because it didn't last, and then Samsung's actual first USB-C phone was the Galaxy A5 and A7, launched in January in 2017. But this was Samsung's first launched phone with USB-C on the bottom. Next to that USB-C slot is what makes a Note, the S Pen. Now, what I really liked about the design of the Note 7 is due to the fact Samsung's slimming out this camera module, it sit flush on a table, meaning when you are writing with the S Pen, it had absolutely no wobble whatsoever. Something today's phones with S Pens are drastically missing. We'll talk more about S Pen features in a little bit. It's just part of the design. First though, I want to talk about the iris scanner. It was a big part of Samsung's marketing, and their launch video for the Note 7, the Galaxy Unpacked, was probably still my favorite unpacked to date. I did do a countdown, I just can't remember where I placed it, but for now, let's just say it was my favorite. Facial recognition was still about a year away with the iPhone X launch in 2017. So Samsung were kind of ahead of the curve when it came to biometrics, the iris scanner being the most secure way you can unlock a smartphone due to the fact that no one's two irises are the same. Whereas facial recognition, there was theories about fooling it with pictures, although Apple did do their dot projection and kind of blew that theory away. But up until this point, the only options you had was unsecure facial recognition and fingerprint scanning, which is convenient in a sense, but iris scanning was just the next level of security. I really like how fast it works. Like, you simply just raise your phone up to your face, you look at it with your eyes, and you're in. It also allowed for like cool animations and cool transition effects to take place. You could change all of that if you wanted to in the settings. There was an option to turn off the transition effect or just go straight from lock screen to the home screen if you wanted to. I really liked just bypassing all of that and just going straight to the home screen. It was fantastic. With that too, Samsung knew that they couldn't just bring the iris scanner out. They needed to bring with it some security features alongside it. So alongside this, they launched Samsung Pass, which I've definitely spoken about in other videos, where you can store your passwords and key information behind your iris. That was amazing. And they also brought Secure Folder. And Secure Folder, again, I've spoken about in other videos, is the opportunity to segment a part of the phone away from the rest of the phone, install duplicate apps, and have files completely secured away, locked by your iris or fingerprint. That sort of stuff, the iris scanner and those features were to extend the Note's productivity sort of picture that Samsung had painted in the marketplace. But even if Samsung didn't launch those alongside the iris scanner, it's just a really cool way to unlock your phone. In terms of cameras or camera, the back of the phone rocked the same camera that the S7 and S7 Edge had, and later down the line, the S8, S8 Plus, and main camera of the Galaxy Note 8 all used this camera. It was Samsung's 12 megapixel dual pixel autofocus f1.7 aperture camera. And for its time, it was superb. I remember comparing this heavily to the iPhone's camera at the time, and that f1.7 aperture opened up low light opportunities that other phones just weren't able to utilize. In terms of now, I think it does okay. Its color reproduction is still good, but there is lots of things that you don't get versus what you do get now. I compared it to my Z Fold 6, and I just did a couple of side-by-sides, and the main thing I noticed with the camera on this is that the HDR doesn't cut it. I found very similar sort of findings with my S4 Zoom video, which you can check out up here. The Note 7 did a much better job in that processing, but it just didn't quite capture the dynamic range good enough. The Galaxy Fold 6 was fantastic. All the difficult spots, it brought that sort of difficult highlights back to life, and you're able to see more detail. It extended out into video as well. That same sort of thing. This could do 4K. It just lost all of the stabilization and sort of focus tracking that Samsung had in the software. And again, you can sort of see that when you put it side by side, as well as a lack of dynamic range, especially in those difficult areas. But it wasn't just about the camera here. Again, it's another sort of showcase of Samsung putting camera modes in here. The thing was, it was probably a lot more pared back than Samsung used to be. S4, S5, and even to an extent S6 all had extensive camera modes. Samsung with the S7 finally realized that a lot of those probably weren't being utilized and started to peg it back a bit. However, there still was some in here that I found quite useful in my time with the Note 7 so far. First one being selective focus. I really liked this. It sort of made up for Samsung's lack of dedicated portrait mode at the time and meant that they didn't really need dual camera until the Note 8, because some brands were already doing dual camera in this year this came out. The way selective focus works is it effectively will take two photos of something and process it so you've got a near focus, far focus, and a pan focus. And in the photo afterwards, you can actually select which focus you'd like, and you can save that as a photo. Really nice if you're taking photos of food or if you're taking photos of flowers, something that you'd like that sort of depth of field created, because it would work to sort of capture everything and then you get to decide afterwards. The other camera mode I really liked was a selfie camera mode called Wide Selfie. And effectively, it was a panorama selfie where you could angle the camera side to side and it would sort of guide you to keep you inside the lines of the original framing, and then you've got yourself a wide selfie. Really clever, and I kind of forgot this was here. I obviously knew it was there, I just had forgotten about it because it's gone now. Outside of that though, the camera wasn't really too exciting. There was no remote shutter from the S Pen. There was no dual camera, as we know. It was just a dependable camera that you could utilize. The reason why is Notes weren't really Samsung's camera frontier. It was always the S series. So as long as this had a good camera, the rest of the phone just needed to be what the Notes were. And what Notes were was the S Pen. With the Note 5 the year before, Samsung brought in a host of new S Pen features as well as a new S Pen mechanic. This was Samsung's first water-resistant Note. And with that, Samsung's first water-resistant S Pen. So you could have confidence that you could use this in external outdoor situations and that the pen would work in those situations as well. In terms of features that were new with this, it had all of the bells and whistles, or it has now because it's got One UI 1.0. So it's got all of Samsung's features that the Note 8 introduced, like live messages, for example. But the one that came with this that was pretty revolutionary for the time was Translate. And I still use it to this day. And this was the first phone to have it. When you take the S Pen out and you select Translate from the Air Command menu, it will bring up the opportunity to use the pen to hover it over some text. You can select the source language and you select the target language from a list, and it actually is powered by Google Translate. So you hover the pen over the top of a word or a paragraph and it will translate that for you. So with the word, it'll just do the word, and then with the paragraph, you have to select the toggle at the top in the little window and then hover over it, and then it will translate it for you. And for that time in 2016, as this was sort of billed as the business productivity phone, having that translate feature be launched with this meant that when you traveled, you have the confidence for translation. And like I said, I still use it now with the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Still one of my favorite features that the S Pen has. Now that's the Note 7, that's what it was. But I've used it for a week and I've kind of got some recollections now of at least what it's like to use now. Because had this thing stuck around, I feel like we'd still be seeing a lot of them, because the emotional attachment I and a lot of others felt towards this phone meant that they would have a hard time getting rid of it. For starters, the 16:9 aspect ratio is different. I feel like it's a bit cramped and a bit squashed in. It's not small by any means, as it's a 5.7 inch screen. But I actually feel like this is kind of compact compared to what we have now. This is an S24 Ultra. When you hold the Note 7 sort of behind it, you can see the difference in size. But the thing is, because it doesn't have that full screen experience, you're actually holding more phone and less screen. It hasn't bothered me though. Like, a lot of people I think would be bothered by it, but I don't think it's a big deal because there's no intrusion on the screen. There's no punch hole, there's no notch. It is all display there, and then you just have the phone bezels top and bottom, and it doesn't really impact. Of course, as well, the buttons at the bottom actually are kind of nice to have again. Having that physical control, the back, the home, and the double press to launch the camera on this as well, I really missed that. And I kind of am glad that, you know, I'm testing it again to remind me of how actually convenient that was. Swipe gestures are cool. Like, it's very svelte and suave and looks futuristic, but sometimes physical tactile buttons were the way to go. From a software point of view, it's running One UI 1.0 and Android 9. That wasn't what it was when it launched. Its last update or security patch was August 2021, and there's not another one coming. Support's been discontinued, obviously. But I think it'd hold up well enough. The only thing I think is missing is a high refresh rate. I've been spoiled now. 60 Hertz, even with all of the developer options, animations being reduced, just aren't enough. There's actually no animations whatsoever either. Like, Samsung didn't really care about that at the time, and I think using it alongside the S24 Ultra, you get to see where Samsung software has gotten to. So it's still snappy enough for most of the things you need to do, like social media, but scrolling through Twitter is a bit laborious. Interacting and launching apps is a little bit monotonous. It's just not quite there compared, and it's obvious. It's an 8-year-old phone running 8-year-old software on an 8-year-old processor. That completely makes sense. I just maybe hope that it would have held up a little bit better, but it's not bad. I still think for the majority of people who don't care about their phone at all, they would use this no problem and be absolutely fine with it. Thing is, the software is still good because it still has Samsung's Edge panel. It's still got their One UI controls. It's still good. Obviously, you can see now Samsung have refined things and made things a lot snappier, especially with hardware improvements that have come out. That's the Note 7 or Fan Edition. I really am glad I've done this because it just goes to show me that Samsung knew what they were doing with their designs. This is a phone that feels incredible. If a phone felt like this now, it would be an absolute top seller. With the weight that this is, with the curves that it's got, I don't think there would be a person out there that would pick up this phone and be like, whoa, that doesn't feel incredible. They wouldn't say that. Every single one of them would be happy with this. Let me know your memories of the Note 7. Definitely one of my favorite phones of all time, and I'm so glad I have one back in my hands. Hit subscribe. Got big plans. I've now got the Galaxy Ring on, so absolutely going to be diving deep into that, and have a bit of a surprise coming as well, thanks to a fellow YouTuber, Average Dad. Hit subscribe, like I said, and I'll see you guys in the next one.